entire boardroom burst into laughter when Ethan Cole signed the papers. "Congratulations," CEO Richard Vaughn smirked, sliding the keys across the table. "You just bought the ugliest garage in Chicago." The old building was covered in rust, leaking from the roof. Abandoned for nearly 20 years. Price? Just $1,000. But 6 months later, that same worthless garage would make Ethan richer than the man who mocked him. And in a twist nobody saw coming, the CEO lost his company to the janitor's son he once called a failure. Story: Ethan Cole was 32 years old, broke, and working night shifts as a warehouse cleaner in Chicago. Every day he watched rich executives walk past him like he was invisible, especially Richard Vaughn, the billionaire CEO of Vaughn Automotive. Richard loved humiliating employees, and Ethan was his favorite target. One night, during a company party, Richard raised a glass and joked loudly, "Careful around Ethan. If hard work made people rich, he'd be a billionaire by now." Everyone laughed. Ethan forced a smile, but deep inside, something changed, because nobody in that room knew a secret about Ethan. When he was younger, Ethan and his father spent years building custom electric engines inside a tiny garage. His father believed electric transport would change America one day. But after his father died, Ethan lost everything. Debt, house, dreams, all gone. The only thing left was an old notebook filled with engine designs and hope. A few weeks later, Vaughn Automotive announced they were shutting down one of their oldest storage properties, an abandoned garage near the railroad tracks. Nobody wanted it. The place looked cursed. Broken windows, rusty tools, water damage everywhere. At the auction, people barely even showed up. Richard noticed Ethan standing in the back. Then he laughed. "What are you doing here?" Ethan looked at the garage photos quietly. Richard smirked. "You want it? I'll sell it to you for $1,000. The room laughed again. To them, it was garbage. But Ethan saw something different. Space, opportunity, a second chance. He used every dollar in his savings and bought it that same day. People online mocked him. His coworkers called him insane. Even his own brother said, "You wasted your life savings on a dump." But Ethan ignored everybody. Every night after work, he repaired the garage alone, fixing walls, cleaning oil stains, replacing wires, sleeping only 3 hours a night. Then one evening, while removing an old steel cabinet from the basement, he discovered something shocking: a hidden workshop. Inside were prototype machine parts left behind by an engineering company that went bankrupt years ago. Most people would have sold the scrap metal, but Ethan instantly recognized the designs: advanced battery cooling systems, years ahead of their time. That night, he reopened his father's notebook, and for the first time in years, he started building again. Months passed. Nobody noticed Ethan anymore. But inside that tiny garage, something revolutionary was happening. Ethan combined his father's engine concepts with the forgotten cooling technology. The result? A low-cost electric engine that lasted nearly twice as long as anything on the market. At first, nobody believed him, until a video leaked online. A local mechanic filmed Ethan's prototype truck outperforming luxury EV brands during a snowstorm. Within days, the clip exploded across TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. Millions of views. Investors started calling nonstop. News stations arrived outside the garage. And suddenly, the same people who laughed at Ethan wanted meetings with him, including Richard Vaughn. Richard arrived at the garage in a black Rolls-Royce. He stepped out slowly, staring at cameras surrounding the building. "You've done well," Richard admitted. Then he smiled. "Sell me the technology. Name your price. Ethan looked around the garage, the same place everyone called worthless. Then he calmly replied, "No." Richard's smile disappeared. Weeks later, Vaughn Automotive stock started crashing. Their EV division was failing. Meanwhile, Ethan's company, Coal Dynamics, exploded in value. Major delivery companies switched to Ethan's engines because they were cheaper and more reliable. Investors abandoned Vaughn Automotive, and then came the moment nobody expected. At a shareholder meeting, Ethan quietly bought controlling shares of Vaughn Automotive. Richard sat frozen as lawyers confirmed the deal. The janitor's son now owned the company. The room went silent. Then Ethan stood up and said, "You laughed at me for buying a worthless garage." He placed the old rusty keys on the table. But opportunity looks worthless to people without vision. Richard couldn't even speak. Later that night, Ethan returned to the garage alone. He opened his father's old notebook one last time. Inside the cover was a sentence his father once wrote: "Great things are built by people the world ignores." Ethan smiled quietly, because the world ignored him too, until it couldn't anymore. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more powerful billionaire revenge and comeback stories. And remember, sometimes the thing everyone calls worthless becomes the reason you change your entire life.